All right, so in this one, the third example, we're going to talk about lights. So lights are a very essential part to rendering because we need lights to light up our objects, basically. I'm by no means a lighting artist, but I think it's very useful to know a little bit of lighting in Houdini anyway. But yeah, so we have a couple of different lights here. We have spotlight, point light, area light, geometry light, volume light, distant light, and environment light. And skylight, but that's kind of environment light as well. These have all like different functions. The ones I tend to use the most is the environment light, area light, and point light, and geometry light. So first and foremost, the environment light is the most basic. That's basic for generating your environment map. The environment light doesn't do anything here. We're gonna go straight into render view now because I wanna like just do it here. So environment light doesn't do anything if you render this right now. It doesn't really do anything. It just adds like a ambient light to it. But it looks kind of alright actually. It looks quite cool. Gives it a bit of shadow. If we switch it off, we still have this bland like light created by the camera. But if we switch it on, we get a more natural looking image with some quite nice shadows and quite nice reflections and stuff like this. This object we're using is quite good for this because it already has a material to it. It already has specularity and reflection and stuff like this. To add in our environment light, environment map, or our HDR map into the environment light, we need to do it here in the environment map. I'm just gonna paste in a path here that I have, that I like to use. Let's use this one. And the console showed up some weird things. And here we go. So this is pretty cool. Now we have a really good like a bluish tint to the light, and it kind of reflects the environment we're gonna render this in. It will look way more real, so to say. Yeah. So if we want to actually display the render geometry, we can click this, and it will actually show the geometry. So this map we're using now is blurred. If we want to use the actual non-blurred, we can do this one, and that's gonna show the whole environment like this, and that's better for actually getting proper reflections into this geometry. What else can we do in the light? We obviously have a light intensity. We can bump this up. We have a light exposure. We have, yeah, the environment light is quite interesting. We have translate. We can rotate it. We can rotate the actual map by rotating here. We can rotate it in Y to just rotate it like around, like turn it around. We have a lot of options. So this is a really cool light that I use a lot, for sure, to just add this like initial ambient to it. So let's put it down a little bit, and let's add another light. Let's stop this by clicking here. So now we have an environment map. We can see it here in the viewport as well. We're gonna add in a point light. So the point lights you can click up here actually, or you can actually just type point. Excuse me. You can type light. It shows up like this. It will have a handle for you to kind of pull it around, and you can actually see it in the viewport that it oops, I actually changed the camera now. I'll click this. So this light is here. You can kind of turn it around. You can move it here, for example. Let's say we want like a sun up here. We can up the intensity. We can turn the color into like a yellowish tint. And let's go into the render and render that. And we can see that now we have the environment and the point light. And if we bump the intensity even more, let's bump that to 10. you start to get a really warm looking image here. But yeah, looks quite cool. So in the mantra node, we can actually define what lights we want to use when we render with this. So we can add a bunch of light to the scene, but then when it comes to rendering, we kind of want to define, like, maybe I don't want to use that light, or maybe I want to use this light. We can do it in the object tab here. So in the candidate lights, we have a star, which means that all lights will be selected. If we only say want to light this object with the point light, we can click only the point light and not have selected the environment light. And that's going to look like this. Now we're only using the yellowish tinted light. And if we want to do the opposite, we just want to render with the environment light. We can go here again and simply click that. And it will update and will only the environment light. If you want to use everything, we can just put a star again. And it will render with all lights. So that's quite cool. Next up, we want to take a look at the object light. So let's drop down a sphere here. Let's go in here. Let's shrink it down a little bit. Let's move it off to the side. Like there. Let's move it up. Let's say I wanted to turn this object into a light. I can do that quite easily. Just select it. Go up here. Click geometry light. This turned this object into a light source, basically. And this is this geolight. It kind of defines here, and you can obviously move this around, and the light will come with it. In the geolight, we kind of want to define a cooler color, maybe like a bluish tint. Let's see. Let's up that to 10 as well. And let's see what it looks like in the render. And as you can see, we now have a bluish color coming from it. And we can even like go ahead and like move this down. And we can see that it becomes like a geometry here. And to actually show that the geometry light, we can actually render the actual geometry by clicking this. And we can see the geometry here. So that's how you can use geometry lights. It's a very nice way of placing lights, or like using a mesh as a light source, that I find very useful in a lot of situations. I can bump it a little bit more, the exposure maybe. Go up a little bit with it. And I mean, this is looking fabulous. Not really. I mean, you have to work way more on your lighting to get it to look decent. And again, I'm not a very good lighter, but yeah. So that's geometry light, environment light, and the usual spotlight or point light. Yeah, that's I guess the initial basis for lighting. If you want more samples in your lights, you can definitely go ahead and do that. That's handled in these. Let's see where it is for this one. I know that for geolight you have a sampling quality here, since you're actually sampling the points on the surface of the object. So if you want to have more quality, you can type like 10 there. It's going to take a little bit longer to sample, but it's going to work quite fine. So remember, all the lights you add in, you can then define which ones you want to use here in the candidate light on the mantra node. So yeah, that's I guess very much the introduction to lights. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.